Hello, 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 everybody. I'm sad that I don't have anyone to pair with today. It's more fun. I see Wes Boss has joined us today, another fellow Canadian programming hero. So, this is what I'm going to try and build today. So, you may remember from the last stream, I was working on making it possible to handle failed webhooks better in like a more sane way. As part of that, I wanted to be able to show like a thank you screen in case the webhook failed. But I also think I want to show that thank you screen even when the webhook succeeds. So the flow would be like someone is hanging out here. They go through and buy their stuff. And then they're going to see this screen after the fact. And this continue button is going to have a link to the webhook response, like the URL that came back from the webhook. So some of these things are not going to work yet. Like we don't have this invoice thing built, but I do want to go ahead and like try and drive out this little template here, kind of wire it up and see where we get with that. So usually the way that I start this sort of thing is by just trying to build like the template on like a static page and kind of figuring it out from there. So it's going to be the same width and everything as this because we want it to be like a natural transition between the checkout form and then like the thank you screen. So I'm going to find that template and we'll just copy that for now. So I think that's in product checkouts new. So this right now is not using any sort of template because it is, or any sort of layout rather, because it was the only page that was publicly visible. So we might want to go and eventually extract one there, but for now I'm just going to copy this whole thing and stick that. I think it was going to be purchases show, like the show view for a completed purchase. Trying to be as restful as we can here. Now this is kind of weird because this is like an admin area screen and this is not. So I think eventually I'm going to create like a sub folder here to move all the back end stuff. But yeah, let's kind of figure out what's going on here. So a bunch of stuff is not going to work here. We don't want this product image thing. We're going to want like this top border thing. So you'll get like a little bit of a tour of some of my CSS stuff too, I guess. So here's this file with some borders. So let's go ahead and give this card here a border top. Some interesting like responsive helpers here. One thing that's kind of cool about this checkout view is if you're on like a large screen, it kind of looks more like a modal in the middle of the screen. But as soon as it gets small, as if you're on a phone, it goes like full screen. So like you lose the rounded borders and all that stuff. I find that when you realize that this is the sort of tweaks that you need to make based on screen size, a really like utility-driven CSS approach becomes the benefits become really obvious because I can control at what screen size the border is rounded, for example, or at what screen size there's a box shadow. So let's go ahead and add a border T to add a top border to this thing. And it's going to be .responsive is like a mix-in that I use to generate responsive versions of these classes. So this will spit out like SM dash border rounded and put that inside of a media query MD dash LG dash and XL dash. I did all the CSS by myself. Yeah. As soon as Bootstrap switched to Sass, I needed to write something myself because less is superior to Sass in every way, and I need to carry that torch. So we have border brand. So let's just kind of build this out as if we're doing this one right now, which the Heroicon's kind of brand color is the same brand color that KiteTail has itself. Eventually I want to add like sort of a theming sort of thing where depending on the product, it's based on the theme color set for the product. Sass isn't better than less. at all. Sass is like, I don't know, kindergarten. Less is for advanced CSS developers. Less is like a functional programming language. Sass is like writing QBasic with a crayon on the sidewalk. All right. Okay. So here, border T, border brand, and I think we want it to be like, what width is this? Don't know if we're going to be able to find that out easily. 10 pixels. So we have this 8 pixel one. So let's roll with that. Border thick. And let's just put in some dummy data for a second, just to get rid of some of the dynamic stuff until we know what data we're going to pass through. Post CSS I think is even better than less, but I haven't gotten comfortable with it or used it. Maybe not better, but it is more interesting to me. All right, so let's make a route, like a test route for now. That'll just return this with some static data so we can kind of see. So we'll do like demo. Whoa, demo, thank you. And it'll be a function that returns a view called purchases.show, and eventually we'll just pass hard-coded products and stuff to there. Okay, so let's go to KiteTail.dev/demo thank you. Already forgot. Identify variable product. All right, so we have a $sign in here somewhere. Product name. Change me to something sensible. All right. That's looking like a pretty good start, to be honest with you. A foods and a huya buds of foods. Okay, so first thing that we want to do is add this like you just bought thing. So let's work on that. So there's some unnecessary divs here. Looks like we do have some padding here. So this is going to be a card section. And inside that card section, we're going to have something with a border. All right. So here we've got this card section. Card section has padding. So the thing with the border needs to be another div. So let's do like a .border B here. And it'll probably be similar to this actually. But I don't think we're going to need... Actually, you know what? I think this set of classes here is going to be pretty relevant. Because if you look at the... So this is a padding bottom 4, where 4 is an arbitrary spacer size. So if you look at my spacing.less file, here's all the different possible spacing sizes that I have available as utilities that are all based on these relative units. So spacer 4 is like 1 font size tall. So you just kind of like start to learn kind of what these mean. So 4 is kind of my go-to for most things. So it might not be accurate here, but we're going to see where we get with it. And we might actually want to set padding inside of this instead of margin on the bottom of this. And this might actually be a top and a bottom border instead of a bottom border on this one. Yeah, that's probably actually what we will do. So in that case, we don't really need this. But we are going to need... We'll just see what happens. We'll start by just trying to do some actual content here. So we're going to have You Just Bought Heroicons by Steve Shoger. So semantically, I'm not really sure what our headings and stuff we're going to use are here. It's kind of weird to make this like an H1 and this just like a span or something. I think it's actually semantically incorrect to use H2s as subheadings too. They're meant to be like secondary headings, but if it's like text attached to another heading, that's not actually what you want. So this could also be the whole H1 and we could style everything inside of it independently, which might be the more semantic solution. But let's just start by making everything paragraphs and then think about it after the fact. So this is going to be you just bought, and we're going to make this heroicons. We'll just hard code everything until we have it looking the way we want. And then what I like to do is slowly work through taking all the fake content on the screen and then piece by piece, like making it more and more real. Okay, so this is not going to be centered. So instead of doing text center, just let it go to the left on its own. And then we got a bunch of stuff in here. So let's just clear all that out, see what we're left with, and start working on that. So I think we can get rid of that extra text. This can go away. So I've got a few different font color helpers. So I think about my fonts as, or my text, sorry, as text that goes on a light background and then text that goes on a dark background. And I have variations for each one. So if you look at like typography base, you can see here's kind of my text colors. So this is text light, which is like my highest contrast light text color. So this is white text designed to go on a dark background. Here's like a slightly softer version, another softer version, and then like a very faint version. Then I have the same thing for text dark. So in this case, we have this, which is going to be the primary text dark. We have this, which is a little less dark, so that's probably going to be our text dark soft. And then this one is either going to be text dark muted or text dark faint. So let's kind of see what we get by just trying those. Also, what font sizes has Steve got here? So 16, 20, and 16. Do I have a 20? So right now I have a 16 and 22. So in cases like this, I usually deviate from the mockups and favor the existing design system. So unless Steve and I decide that all the existing 22 pixel fonts are going to get bumped down to 20, then I'd rather bump this 20 up to 22. So this is going to be text base, just to be explicit. That's like the base font size, so that's going to be the 16. This is going to be text, what was it, XL? Text extra large. This we said was going to be text dark muted. This is going to be text dark. And this is going to be text dark soft. So let's see what we get. All right. I think we're using a different font than Steve too. And it looks like his line heights are a little tighter on these. And this probably needs to be bold, right? Okay, so what about this one? This top one. Semi-bold, semi-bold, semi-bold. Okay, so we need to make all these semi-bold. So we can do a weight medium up here and see where that gets us. Yeah, it's hard when we're not using the same font. I'm going to switch to using the same font temporarily. I am using Lato for production right now because we haven't set up our like Typekit account, but all the mockups have been using Proxima Nova. So I have that installed locally. So we can roll with that. It looks like that changed to Proxima. Did. Okay. And we need to figure out how to tighten up that spacing a little bit, I think. Let's not worry about it yet. We'll do another pass of refinements after the fact, I think. I think these colors are too dark, too. I think we need to swap. Well, we got to bump this one down to faint and bump this one down to muted, maybe. Again, I'm not going to copy the exact colors from the sketch file. I'm just going to rely on the design system that we have. So this is actually too faint. So we'll have to think about, I'll have to find other cases where that's being used and see if it makes sense to change it. But we'll leave it for now. So we're going to need to put this icon over here. So Steve sent that to me right here. So let's open this in Sublime and convert that to spaces, not tabs. Gross, Steve. So we have that icon, and think about where we want to stuff that. So I think I don't have a good place for this sort of thing. I've been putting my SVGs in blade templates so they're easy to include with variables. But for this icon, I feel like maybe I should have like a top level icons section. What would you call those? Icons or illustrations? Like some of them are bigger. Let's make an icons thing. And what is it really? It's like a credit card, check mark. I don't know. Won't worry about it too much, and we'll move that to .blade.php because we're just going to embed that inline anyways. So we're going to want some Flexbox action going on here, I think, because we want to put this stuff all the way on the left and this stuff all the way on the right, and Flexbox is like the natural solution to that. So I have this flex y center flex spaced. So flex spaced is going to set the content justification to space between, so it shoves one set of things all the way up to the left and one all the way up to the right. And this is going to vertically center everything. So we'll give that a shot and see how that turns out. And then we'll just include icons dot credit card check mark. And let's just see what happens. The sizing is probably going to be weird, or nothing's going to work. It is there, but it has no size. Okay. So Steve has this set to 88 pixels wide. So if we divide that by our root font size, that's like 5.5 rem. So let's take a look at what utilities I have for widths, if I have any. They might be in images. So this is something I haven't really totally figured out what I want to do yet. I almost want to just like pass it in, but the problem is what is the problem? I can't use relative units in things like width. You can't say like width 5.5 rem in all browsers. For example, Firefox doesn't support this. So if I wanted to give it a width of 5.5 rem, I wonder if I can pass it in as a style tag. So if we do like style or nothing, I think that might be something. Let's see. So one thing I do a lot with this blade stuff is you can pass like a second argument, right? So we can say like style, and then we can say width is like 5.5 rem. Just do it totally inline for now and see what happens. Yeah, that's looking better. Let's check it out in Firefox. Safari and Chrome usually are pretty similar. Yeah, it's looking pretty reasonable. Check it out in Safari. Looking fine. Yeah, I do have a SVG blade directive thing, but it has like more opinions baked into it. I use that for like these sorts of icons that are like meant to go in line with text. For something that's really like an image that goes on the site, I usually pull it in on its own. Okay. So does this look like it's centered? So the screwed up thing here is this is centered, but mathematically centered, not like visually centered. Because this icon has this weird circle thing at the bottom here, the center of it is actually lower than what it feels like the center of it should be. Like you almost want the center to be like the center of the card and think of this as just like some overlay. Because it's centered right now, but it makes it feel like it's shifted up a little bit. Let's not worry about that yet. Again, it might get better as we tighten up the line height on these. If we were to go in here and say like the line height is 1 for all of this stuff, it's probably going to be too tight. Yeah, it's way too tight. But it's going to need to get brought in a little bit. So I might have to invent some line spacing helpers soon. Okay. Let's go back to this mode. Okay, so we want to add this little credit card receipt sort of area. So that's going to go in the same card section, I think. So that'll be in here, but under here. And it'll have a border T, border B, border... What is the border color class called? Border light. And then we're going to have... Part of me wonders if like this should actually be implemented as a table. But as long as the font sizes are the same for this and this and this and this, then things will still line up. Things can be kind of sketchy with Flexbox sometimes when you're trying to get baselines aligned. But I think we do want to try that here. So let's do flex, spaced, and in this section we'll have Visa, and then the old credit card number. Is there a HTML character for that? HTML like bullet character? All right. Try it. And bull. Four of those. And then some arbitrary 4614. It's probably Steve's credit card number. And then this one is going to have right aligned text. So we got to make sure that we do a class text right. And $69. And then a date. I'll just use the same data as Steve so that we can more easily kind of compare and see where things are at. Okay, so it's kind of there. This looks like it's supposed to be the same color as that. So I think text dark. That faint is a little too hardcore. Let's try muted on this one. And same with this one. Class text dark muted. The nice thing about this CSS approach is that Middot. Is Middot better than bullet? Let's find out. HTML Middot. The nice thing about writing CSS this way, which David Hemphill in the chat there will attest to, is that I never have to write CSS. You've probably noticed that I haven't had to write any CSS yet to implement this exact same, or to implement Steve's kind of design here. So let's put a couple mid dots next to some bullets here. Let's see what we get. Yeah, let's use them. See if they look different. Interesting, interesting. What one do we want? Semantically, it's hard to say. It feels weird to make it a bullet because it's really not a bullet point, but it does look the most correct. So I'm going to roll with it. I think Tachyons is similar. I haven't used Tachyons myself. I I think I straddle like the line between like the real hardcore utility focused CSS and still having like some components. So like for example, in Tachyons, I think if I'm not mistaken, usually people are not creating like a button class. They'll just like put 10 classes in there to create it every time. I usually like bubble some of those more higher level abstractions. Yeah. What do we got for weight? Multiple, semi-bold, regular. Okay. So these will be, let's do some clever selecting here. Oh no, it's not going to work. Sad. Class equals weight medium. And we're going to jump to the next one in a fancy way. If we do a PJ, there we go. Using this Ace Jump plugin, which is really cool. Okay. Obviously, it's way too tight, so we're going to need to add some padding. I'm going to try a PT4, or sorry, a PY4. So vertical padding of the 4th spacer size. I think it's too much. I guess we'll try 3. It feels weird to me to use 3. Maybe even 2. Okay. We're going to add a padding to the bottom of this too. PB 4. Getting there. Getting there. This feels too thick. Normal. How are these both normal? Probably just the aliasing. I bet you if I had like a WebKit font smoothing set to anti-alias, it would look more like Steve's. So this is probably how, yeah, Sketch is rendering using regular anti-aliasing instead of subpixel anti-aliasing. SAMP tag. What's a SAMP tag for? Never used this one. Sample output from a computer program? Interesting. All right, so obviously we're not going to be rolling with this change here, so things are going to look a little heavier. The WebKit font smoothing thing is cool. Things look kind of nicer, but it only works in WebKit browsers. So if you design with that and then go to look at it in Firefox, everything always looks kind of lame. So you have to kind of decide if you just don't care and want to just treat yourself to the beautiful WebKit rendering, or if you actually care. All right, need something more? Generate a detailed invoice. So that's going to be in the same. It's going to be in this same block here. And part of me actually wants to put it inside this one because it feels like it's semantically kind of part of the receipt. But it doesn't really matter. But I think I'm going to do that, to be honest with you. So let's stick another div here and move this whole div inside of it so that we can have a p tag here that has that text. Need something more. A ref. Generate a detailed invoice. Gonna try a period in there. I don't know if that's good. So this will be a class. I think it's link primary or link brand. Link brand. The date could be a time tag. This is true. And is this a smaller font? 14. So That means we are going to want to use our TextSM helper here for slightly smaller text and text center. And it looks like it's the same color as this stuff. So we'll go with text dark muted. And see where we get. Getting there. And let's throw a margin spacer at the bottom of this one. MB3 maybe. What is our spacing like on the card? Oh, that's some heavy padding on that actually. So 1.5 rem of vertical padding. That's a lot more than I thought. Let's try this anyways. I think we're going to want to switch from a card section to explicit padding. This card abstraction, I mentioned this in a previous stream, but it's proving to be not super helpful, honestly. I do kind of like the spacing here. It's more just this seems too much. Greetings, yes. Let's roll with it. See what it looks like when we get further through it. Okay, so we're going to want a border B on the old card section here. Which goes all the way to the edges because it's on the card section itself that has the padding. And then there's this BG Soft section down here, which is no longer going to be a BG Soft section, but it is going to be a card section. And then we're going to have a paragraph here that says, thanks for purchasing Heroic Cons. Click the link below to get access to access your files. Download your file. Access. Okay, looking pretty crappy. Needs to be centered and it needs to be constrained. So I think all the text in this card section is centered. So let's bubble that all the way up here. So this is obviously too wide, right? And if there was more text, it wouldn't be too bad. But because we're expecting this to be like pretty short most of the time, we want to explicitly constrain the width of this to avoid like kind of weird orphaned words. So that's why this is narrowed so that there's a little bit more balance between the top line and the bottom line. So I have some constrain helpers that let me just arbitrarily constrain some block element to a certain size. So let's start with constrain SM and see how that works out for us. Let's do dot constrain SM dot MX auto. So horizontal auto margins. So it's still a little bit too wide, I think. So we might want to go with constrain XS. And hopefully that's not too small. I really don't like having tons of arbitrary sizes everywhere. It's really important to me to like have a kind of fixed set of options to choose from for things. I don't want one layout to have a 19 pixel width and another one to have 20 and another one to have 17. It's just chaos. So I'm trying to like find compromises that let me have a smaller set of choices. So let's add this download button, which is going to be a link really. That goes to nowhere. Download. What does it say? Download files. Download files. I like the capital A, although Steve chose not to use one. Okay, so we'll add another p tag. And this is going to say this fancy text here. And I think that's smaller and fainter. Yeah, so text dark muted probably. Let's just lock that in. Text SM, text dark muted. Okay, getting there. Then the button. So let's just make this a primary button for now and see what happens. It's very bright, and the font is pretty heavy, but I'm just going to leave it as is, because if we want to change the font weight on all buttons on the whole site, then that's another discussion. So now I got to decide. There's some spacing under this and some spacing under this, and I have to decide, what do I want to trigger that spacing? Is it the button that's saying I need space above me and I need space below me? Or is it this text saying I need space below me and this text saying I need space above me? I tend to default to using a margin bottom on the previous element usually. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. The one thing that sucks about that is I guess I can make this a block level element, but then the width is going to be wrong. So we actually have to do like a div to wrap this button, just to be able to apply a bottom margin sanely. I don't really feel good about adding a margin bottom to an inline display element. Icon. I wonder if that's a Zondicon. Let's find out. Arrow outline down. Looks pretty similar. Let's use it. So I do have a blade icon helper where you can say @icon. And if I have Zondicons pulled in, we should be able to say arrow outline down. But if not, I can copy it in. File does not exist. Okay. I'm sure it does exist. It's just not in the right place. Because I tend to avoid including every single icon, so I've been slowly copying over the icons as I use them. And one day I'll probably do an audit again to make sure that they actually are all still being used. And some of them are from a different icon set too. It's not looking very nice. So let's use Flexbox to align that in a sane way. So, I think the easiest way is to sadly do this gross crap. Well, maybe we can put the Flexbox stuff on the button, but I think it's going to have some weird effects. Because we want to use flex Y center, but we don't want to use display flex. We want to use display flex inline. So I think we can do flex Y center, flex inline, and maybe that'll work. Okay, so that's working. So now this icon needs to have some space next to it. So we can add another class by saying MR4, which might be too much. So we can try MR2, which looks about right to me. All right, getting there. Next, we have this share section. So let's try that out. So this will have a border B, and then we'll have another card section. But this card section will be BG Soft, which is my light gray backgrounds. And let's just put some text in there and kind of see what we get. Seems generally correct. So we want to say this friendly, personal sounding text. And this is going to be text small too. And text center. And actually, let's put text center on the whole card, because the buttons are going to need that too. I think the color is going to be needing to change too. It's probably the same as that color. Seems okay. Needs to be constrained. That's the problem. I knew something felt weird here. Dot constrain xs dot mx auto. Cool. And then these buttons, which are going to be interesting to make. So I did this on something else. So I'm going to see what my Twitter button looks like here. So this is using an embedded version of the tweet icon. Let's just copy this over for now and see how it turns out. It's going to be not right at all because a lot of these classes don't exist, but maybe they do because I probably copied the CSS from that project, and they do. So this is not right anymore. Some of these class names changed between the projects. Okay. So we need some space underneath that text. Does this tweet button have some weird letter spacing stuff set on it? Or is that just really tight text? I guess that is. Okay. And let's get the Facebook one too. So Steve has this icon here, which I'm guessing came from somewhere. So let's export this as an SVG from Sketch here. And stick that in the old KiteTail icons folder. One thing I love about Mac OS Sierra is they finally added the ability to put your folders on top. That's the only thing I ever liked about Windows. Okay, facebook.svg. Now let's see what that icon looks like. Yeah. So now we're going to optimize this SVG icon. So we're going to go to SVG OMG, which is an online SVG optimizer. We're going to reveal this in the Finder. And drag that icon onto here. So it's 60% smaller than it was before. And now it looks something like this. There's not a bunch of trash that's not necessary. So you can see before and after. XML crap is gone. This title crap, the description, an unused defs group collapses all these groups that are not necessary. Super nice. We can get rid of. Okay, viewbox is 16 by 16. What's the Twitter one? 025204. Kind of scary, but that's fine. We'll make it work. We can get rid of this fill because that'll get taken from the CSS. And I think I'm actually going to go ahead and move this Twitter one to an icon too. So we can pull that in. Icon Twitter MR2, because all these icons will get this icon class by default. So let's just see what happens when we refresh. So we get two little birds, which is good. Let's get rid of this one. So we just have this nice one here. This tweet button is kind of cool. You can do like this tweet intent stuff. So when someone clicks it, you can pre-fill it for them and they can customize it however they want. Yeah. Getting there. Facebook icon next. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm actually going to get rid of this, but we'll keep the target blank stuff because that's a good practice. for these sorts of share things. And these will probably be ugly. Yeah, so we're going to need to make a Facebook button glass and get like the Facebook blue. Steve made these the same size, I think. 110, 103. He probably intends for them to be the same size, which is reasonable. So that's something that we'll have to think about. We might be able to do that with Flexbox. I think we can. Maybe. We'll see. Let's find out what color this blue is. Did I make this say Facebook? It should say share. Okay. Fill. Let's head over to buttons. And there's a Twitter button in here, so we'll just duplicate that and put the Facebook blue here. I think Facebook also uses Helvetica for their share buttons. Where would be a good place to find an example Facebook share button? Seems like it should be easy to find. Maybe Facebook. No, I don't want to show you guys my Facebook. Facebook share button. Helvetica, yeah. The rel no opener versus no follow. I don't know what the no follow thing does. The no opener thing is because there's a weird vulnerability with target blank where whenever you open a new window using target blank, the new window has a JavaScript reference to the previous window, and they can do weird stuff. So there was this security thing where if you open a link from one page and opens a new tab, that page can actually, behind your back, make the previous page redirect somewhere else. So say you were on a site that you were logged into and you clicked something and it opened up to a new thing, they could actually do a redirect on the previous window to like a phishing site and make it look like your session timed out and you have to log in again and steal your passwords and shit. So this is supposed to prevent that by preventing the new window from having a JavaScript reference to the previous one. Supposed to do both? All right. I'll do it. You guys have convinced me. Okay. Share and tweet. Those are looking pretty cute. Let's stick a MR4. Space those out a little bit. And actually, I don't really feel the need to change the widths of those. They seem like close enough to me now. Cool. So, the only other thing I want to think about here, I think, is this color is kind of really grinding my gears. So let's do a quick search inside this resources folder for TextDarkFade. See where else it's being used. Here. Quite a few places. Let's see how it looks in those places. It's being used for icon colors. So like this color. Same with there, same with there. I think I'm only using it for icons, really. For the most part, anyways. Oh, there's some stuff here. Product index page where we show the total revenue and stuff. So like this text. I wonder what I can get away with. How much lighter I can make that without it wrecking the other style. Nice. Text dark faint. So we're setting the lightness to 80%. I wonder if we do like 75. So that's already better to me, although yeah, and it's not too bad here. So maybe that is a improvement overall by tweaking that contrast a bit to be a little bit higher. Okay, so the next thing to figure out is this spacing stuff. So this is set to 19, which is very arbitrary. I don't know why Sketch guesses it to be 19. But I think by default, all of these are set to 1.5. Yeah, 24 pixels. So, it's hard to know what I should do there. Like if these were set to like something like, first of all, does that come out to an even number? Because that is going to drive me crazy if it doesn't. See, that is not an even number, which is super depressing. I mean, that's looking closer to the design, I think. It just feels like it's too spaced out. And I feel like these spacings need to be the same, which sucks. So I think we're going to want to override the card section spacing on this one, or make this, no, this can't be further away from that line. Okay, let's go and think. So this has a margin bottom of 4. So we need to override the padding bottom of this card to be 4 too. Yeah, that looks better. Cool. I was hoping we were going to get far enough to start actually integrating this with the actual code so we could actually get this page to show up. I like that we got this little animation there. That's going to serve in handy. But we don't really. But one thing that we can do is just to like pretend demo the whole thing. Let's go to the product checkouts controller. And here where I'm returning where we should redirect, let's instead, actually this is going to be something we do in view. Where is the redirect happen? Let's just comment this one out and redirect to /demo. Thank you. Give that a minute to compile. And just go here and pretend to pay. And see if it kind of feels kind of cool that we get to go to that proper thank you page. Yeah, pretty nice. I dig that. Yeah, text slightly darker than muted, but still. I mean, maybe there's a case to be made that we add another text color. So instead of having 4, we have 5. I originally started with 3. So we'll see. But I don't know. That was kind of cool. That's what it looks like to transition between them. So when this one's paid, you get this, which I think is kind of nice. So by the next time I do a stream on Tuesday, I'll either have more of this kind of put together. Probably not, though, because we kind of have a big weekend this weekend with some renovation stuff. So maybe on Tuesday what we'll do is go through the process of making all this data real, with real data coming from the actual system. And that'll involve writing a bunch of tests and stuff to make sure that things are working properly. But for now, we have like kind of the basic example template built out. And I think it looks pretty close to the design. It's not perfect, but I think it's, again, pretty close. You know, if we have this here and that there, to me, that's a pretty reasonable representation of it. So I think we got some cool, useful stuff done here. So, pretty neat. Barely had to write any CSS at all. The only CSS we had to write was creating this new class specifically for this Facebook button. Everything else, we just got to kind of make use of the existing design system, which was sweet. Because HTML is way easier to write than CSS. But yeah, next week we'll look at trying to translate some of this into real data, making things work a little bit better, maybe even drive out the thank you page that you see like when the webhook fails, which I'm not sure what that'll say yet. I think it'll probably just change this information, and maybe we'll change the primary action to something else. I don't know. Figure it out. Anyways, thanks everyone for coming and hanging out. And I hope it was fun to go through some kind of CSS front-end template stuff for a change instead of some of the back-end stuff. But promise we'll get back to some more TDD and Laravel and stuff soon. Thanks, everyone. See you at the next one.